Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Partition Podcast. Now, as you know, everyone has the right to their own opinions. But last night, I came across some social media posts where a group of women were giving advice on relationships and marriage in general. And what they were saying was that their boyfriends / their partners would never be their best friend because that's what their girlfriends are there for. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm no relationship expert over here, and people can have as many close friends as they want. But in this episode, I'm going to be telling you why I believe you should be marrying your best friend. And to start, I'm going to tell you why by introducing something called the Dunbar number. Now, the Dunbar number is a concept developed by British anthropologist Robin Dunbar. And this concept suggests that humans typically have a cognitive limit to the number of people we can maintain stable social relationships with. Now, Dunbar initially based his studies on primates, but then he extended his findings into humans, and he found that humans have a capacity limit to about 150 relationships that can be meaningful. Now, these 150 spaces are broken down into different types of layers and have different types of closeness to each one. So I'm going to start with the smallest and closest circle, which is our very closest relationships that we can have. And this space is typically limited to one or tops two very special people. And this is a space where it's supposed to hold a romantic partner or, quote, best friend. The next layer is the emotional support layer. And this layer typically holds enough spaces for about 5 intimate friends. The next layer is our sympathy group layer, which is said to include enough space for about 15 people. And the reason why this is called the sympathy group layer is because this is the space where if one of these people were to die, you would be sad. This layer also includes the people that you have in your previous layer. Now, the next layer is the good friends group, which holds enough space for about 50 people, including the previous layers. And these are the people that you would invite to a party, but not necessarily hang out with every day. The next layer from that holds enough space for about 150 people and includes everyone in the previous layers. And these are the people that you would share information with and occasionally catch up with, but otherwise you aren't that close with. Now, from there, we start to break off into the less meaningful relationships by introducing the layer where acquaintances are held. And this place holds enough space for roughly 500 people where we might know their name and their face. Think of maybe a past coworker or old high school friends that you might run into, right? These are people that you see them, you're like, oh, hey, I know you, right? So from there, we go to the next layer. And this is where we can recognize someone by sight, but you don't remember their name. And this space typically holds enough spaces for about 1,500 faces. Now, keep in mind, this was created when we didn't have the technology we do now. So one of the criticisms of the Dunbar number is that with the rise of social media and digital communication, these numbers might actually be growing, but that doesn't mean that they are being quality, right? So we're extending these numbers, it might be changing, and we might be having larger networks, but it's in a much more superficial way. But what's interesting is the Dunbar number also suggests that when someone enters a romantic relationship, it can sometimes cost someone 2 friends from their support network, meaning that when someone gets into a relationship, they bump 1 or 2 friends to the next level. And I think it's safe to say that we all know of a story like this, or maybe we know someone like this. You know, that one friend that gets into a relationship and suddenly gets distant from the friend group. Now, it's not in a mean way, but it's clear that how they are prioritizing their time has definitely changed. So when you think about it, if you do know someone who does this, maybe that person is just demonstrating the Dunbar number in real time. But really what I took away from the Dunbar number is that people really do only have enough space for 1 at tops 2 people in their most intimate layer of friendship, which to me makes it too precious of a friend type to just give to anyone. So taking this information into the context of marriage advice, if your spouse isn't in that most intimate circle, then who is? Because ultimately, a best friend isn't just any type of friendship or connection. It's an incredibly powerful connection and it holds a lot of weight. And it's way more than just having a good time and sharing those bright, sunny, sunshine moments together. A best friend is someone who you can turn to no matter what. They are your rock, your stability when things seem to go upside down or sideways. They hold space for you when you can't hold space for yourself. It's the person who you can share your lightest and darkest parts with. And it's the person that you want to do everything with. And seriously, doesn't everything get better when you do it with your best friend? Errands, vacation, cleaning up, fucking, you name it. Living life with your best friend just makes things more fun and playful, which is a key component to life and definitely a key component to a healthy romantic relationship. So if you can't be playful with your partner, kick them to the curb, people, because although this may sound harsh, this is a hill I'm ready to die on because love without playfulness and silliness will just become too serious and almost robotic. And even further, some forms of love can just be straight up toxic. But you can always tell when those two people or that couple, they still have that playful spark with each other. You know, you can see it. You can see it in the aura that surrounds them. And hey, I'm not saying that best friends don't fight or argue, because you better believe that best friends have one of the harshest and probably like the worst fights. But that's because they're kind of like a mirror to you. And we all know that every single type of relationship connection has its storms. And I'm not even saying that best friends can't grow apart because that can happen too. You know, relationships are complicated and as individualistic as they can get. But in a nutshell, that true, that deep, that strong best friend connection, yeah, that's solid. That's rock solid. And when people in this type of connection do get into an argument, if they are those best friends, if they do have that true best friend connection, then they're going to be even more compelled to resolve whatever issue came up so they can continue on the path of living a life together. And in a marriage, isn't that what you want? Don't you want someone to play this game of life with, to have fun and be silly, but also trust that they're going to give it to you straight? Because let's be real, being someone's best friend isn't always easy, and it can be quite a hard task. Sometimes you need to be the one to tell your best friend an ugly truth. And sometimes they need to be the one to tell you an ugly truth. But that doesn't mean that you or them or anyone involved needs to deliver that ugly truth in a harsh or mean way. It just means that they wouldn't lie to you out of convenience sake or sugarcoat things unnecessarily. But remember, when it comes to receiving ugly or harsh truths, don't shoot the messenger. Sometimes the truth hurts, baby, but you still need someone strong enough to tell you regardless. Because what's worse, being in the company of someone who lies to you to protect their own feelings, or being in the company of someone you know is going to tell it to you straight? And in a marriage, I seriously don't see how it would work any other way. Why would anyone choose to live their one life with someone who doesn't fit this best friend criteria? To me, best friends fill in the in-between spaces of life. And no matter where you go, it somehow always feels like home. You know, some people call it love, some people call it partnerships, some call it besties, but I'm in the boat that calls this special connection marriage. Because again, for me, the criteria for a best friend does make for a pretty fucking fantastic partner. Because best friends are the people that know you the best. They know your flaws, they know your quirks. They aren't afraid to call you out on your shitty fucking behavior. They want the best for you. They want to grow with you and see you succeed. They would never do anything intentionally to hurt you, and they push you when you need motivation. Best friends typically have similar mutual goals and common interests, and they give unwavering support. They want to create a sense of security, and they want stability with each other, and they want to laugh and cry together. And really, at the end of the day, they're intertwining their energy fields. And honestly, I feel that your best friend is someone that you would go to war with. This is the person that's going to stand by you in the face of danger, in the face of evil. They're your right-hand man, per se. The position of best friend isn't going to leave you high and dry when things get tough. And again, in a marriage context, I certainly wouldn't have it any other way. Now, of course, when it comes to advice, take what makes sense to you and leave the rest of it. If it doesn't apply to you, so be it. But in regards to the age old question of should I marry my best friend, I definitely say yes. And at this point, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Maybe my definition of what a best friend is different from yours. But I can't imagine being married to someone who isn't my best friend, who doesn't want to share my life moments with me. I am somebody who wants to go out. So if I was with somebody who just sits at home all day and doesn't come out, then I would just feel like I'm living with a roommate. And again, before you get your knickers in a knot, I'm not saying that you need to copy each other 100% of the time, but in a long-term relationship, at some point, you are going to have to do some things you might not want to do because that's what's going to demonstrate unity to your partner. And in life, it's shared experiences that make people connected, right? But I also want to share a very practical concept that, maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't know, which is the 5 love languages that was created by Dr. Gary Chapman. Now, again, although this concept has become quite popular, I feel that it's still not quite a concept that is universally known. So I think it's important to highlight that each of us have a preferred method in how we want to receive love. And once we are aware of that, not only can we communicate that to our partner, we can also communicate that to the people around us. And we can also act accordingly with our partner's preferred method as well. So Dr. Gary Chapman's concept of the 5 love languages outlines 5 different ways people express and experience love. And a breakdown of each of the love languages is going to go as followed. First, there's words of affirmation. This is the love language that involves expressing love and appreciation through spoken or written words. Compliments, praise, verbal encouragement, all of these things are highly valued by people who like words of affirmation. And some examples of this is saying, I love you a lot, offering compliments like you look great today, or expressing gratitude such as thank you for doing the dishes or thank you for cleaning up, whatever it is, right? Et cetera, et cetera. The second method is acts of service, which is the love language that involves doing things for your partner to show that you care. To people who prefer this method, actions certainly speak louder than words. So examples of this is cooking a meal for your partner. Maybe you ran an errand for them or you did a household chore that they don't like to do. All of these things fall under the acts of service category. The third is receiving gifts. But this doesn't mean that that person wants fancy, expensive stuff. It's more about the value, the thought, the effort behind the gift. So it could be as simple as giving a card, giving a flower, or making something, or simply seeing something that's cute in a store and being like, oh, wow, I think my partner would love this. And then you get it and you bring it home and they're so happy, right? That is receiving gifts. The fourth love language is quality time, which is the love language that emphasizes spending meaningful and undivided attention together. So no phones. Just because you two are in a room together doesn't mean that that's actually quality time, right? So some things that you can do is schedule regular date night, like once a week, or bi-weekly at the very least, or doing activities that you both enjoy. The fifth, and my personal favorite, is physical touch, which includes both intimate and non-intimate forms of physical contact. So holding hands, hugging, kissing, rubbing your back, cuddling, or simply sitting next to each other. Now, if you're not sure what your love language is, I want you to pause here for a minute and I want you to think about those moments in your life where you felt most loved and appreciated. What was going on? Do any words or actions pop out to you? Now, don't worry. You can identify with more than one love language, but if you're still having a difficult time pinning down your primary, I included a link to an online quiz that Dr. Gary Chapman made in the podcast description that can help you determine your primary love language. But again, what do you think? Do you think I'm crazy for thinking you should marry your best friend? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Yes or no? If not, I would love to know why. So leave your feedback in the comments. But that's it for today's episode and my little rant on why you should marry your best friend. But yeah, As for next Monday, you're definitely not going to want to miss it because next week we're going to be joined by renowned sex and intimacy coach and, dare I say, friend, Serena Haynes. And Serena will be joining us to discuss the 7 veils of intimacy. Now, I'm super excited for this episode. Like, I'm very, very excited. So I do want to give you a little sneak peek to next week's episode by letting you in on each of the titles of the veils. So the first veil that Serena is going to go through is the energy body, then the innocent caress, then exploring the landscape. Then we have animal arousal, then skin to skin, then orgasmic playground, and then finally the divine union. So yeah, make sure you guys tune into next week to unravel each of those layers of intimacy, one veil at a time with Serena. Also, if you like what you're hearing, please share with your friends and show your support by subscribing to the Partition Home of Kinky Wellness YouTube channel to catch all of my latest episodes. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. That's it for me. I hope you have a fabulous week. And as always, stay kinky.